to the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside sunny and warm Louisville, Kentucky, and a good midsummer, mid-June welcome to my good friend John Webster in Maryland. See, we have a special guest today, so John, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Gary, how you doing, man? Another great week in sports. We're gonna have a great time talking and enjoying ourselves. By the way, the weather's not hot enough for me here today. It's only 75 degrees. Jimmy knows me well. You know me well too, Gary. That's about 20 degrees short of what I want it to be. We need
There's something
95
wrong
to
with you.
100. I have on a new sweatsuit for the purpose of this weather. Dante and his lovely wife Noelle gave me a sweatsuit for Father's Day, and I'm loving every minute of wearing it because to me it is cold outside. Hey, but without further ado, I have a dear friend on here today, been a friend of mine, great friend for 30 plus years. We've worked together in the recreational field for quite a long time. He's also quite a soccer aficionado. He has played it. He has coached it. He has refereed it. He's an avid fan, and we're bringing him on here today so he can tell us all about this World Cup and what's going on. My great friend, Jimmy Bell, man, welcome aboard again. Thank you for coming, man.
My friends, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for all you do and for having me. I look forward to seeing you and talking always.
Hey, I'm going to say this before you get started. uh, our real driver of the car, John Pitt, was going to come by here today. He was going to surprise Gary and be here on the show. But he had a little problem. He couldn't make it because he had to go and watch Ghana play England. He just sent me a text message that it's 0-0 at halftime, and if it stays a tie, Ghana's looking real good. So we'll start with that, and then I'll just say, go USA, go USA.
So I would tell you guys that a lot of us, I am 60 now, 61. We're skeptical.
You look good, man. You look good.
I appreciate you, brother. So we were skeptical, a lot like of the expanded NCAA basketball tournament next year, that you're bringing in 16 extra teams. We all anticipated, older guys, some routes, to be honest. You got small nations, and I have to give credit where credit's due. FIFA got this right, that we've seen some great games, some great matchups. We've seen some lower seeded teams in the worldwide rankings come in and hold their own. Probably none bigger than Cape Verde against Brazil. And that Ghana team's got, for example, today, they know what they're doing. And for them, the draw is every bit the win that England needs. And as I tell all my novice friends, with about 15 minutes to go, that's when the favorite starts to sweat. It's all peaches and cream till then. But at 15 minutes, when your fans are yelling and that crowd starts to turn a little bit and you start winking and looking at that clock, that's when the pressure mounts. And I always say kudos to a team that's organized, well enough coached to get to that draw. They've earned it. And that's the thing I tell folks, novice fans right now. Enjoy these next 8 days, because when the knockout round comes, all the math changes and things are different. But right now, you've got a lot of small clubs holding their own, and equally, you've got a lot of superstars showing up. And so FIFA's got the best of both worlds right now. They really do.
Jimmy, how far can the USA go, man? How far can these kids go, man?
John, you and I both know this. They've been talking about the emergence of USA soccer since we were little kids. I would tell you, I spent yesterday in a group chat with some friends, and we were literally talking like favored nations about sitting guys in the next game because we think we have a chance and we're that good. I will say this. We could be the butler of 2010 in this tournament. Things could shake our way and we could be all the way at the final. Everybody looking around like, holy cow, we made it. And then, does that last shot go in by Hayward off the backboard and the buzzer from 35 feet? Then we get the trophy. If it doesn't, then we made a great trip. And the mere fact that former college soccer players, soccer guys through and through, were debating sitting players to bring guys off the bench and still assuming that we can beat Turkey, let you know that we've arrived. And
Wow.
the sky's the limit. You just got to stay focused and believe.
Is Pulisic, am I saying his name right? Pulisic, is he going to play against Turkey? Is the calf going to be okay?
Not if I'm coaching. The risk
Really?
isn't worth. Well, and so here's the thing, and we both coached at different levels, different sports, and different things. And that was the debate yesterday with my crew was, this game doesn't mean anything. You're wrong. Every game and momentum means something. And so, when one of my younger former college teammates asked me, he said, who would you start? I said, oh, that's easy. I'd start everybody who started the last game. I said, period, end of story. And somebody mentioned Pulisic, and I said, well, he sat last game, so he sits again. I said, and the reason is you want that confidence. You want guys to expect to win, and it's not worth the risk to play Christian. It really isn't.
I get it. Gary, jump in here, man. Come on, man. Jump on in here.
Yeah, a couple of questions. What do you think has made this U.S. team so effective this time? I guess, you obviously you chalk it up to coaching and talent, but how has he made this team? How has he made this team work it offensively to the point where, as opposed to what I considered reaction in previous appearances, where they are more proactive than, say, reactive offensively. And I mean, 4 goals in their debut game, that was something that I didn't see coming, whether it was an overmatched opponent or not. We're still talking about U.S. soccer, which tends to be more defensive and reactionary than we've seen in this one.
So you bring up some really interesting points, Gary, and I would say this, that 10 days before the first game was the last scrimmage friendly against Germany. And again, in a group of 20 guys, all of whom played in college, the question was, are we really this good, or is Germany not playing everybody and they're really giving us a pass? And what we all agreed collectively was the truth was somewhere in the middle. Turns out, the first opponent's not as strong as Germany. A lot to be credited to Pochettino. The coach knows what he's doing. But, in soccer, when you're aggressive, when you're trying to move forward and score goals, we always talk about you want to be out on your front foot attacking. And they came out on the front foot. Now, there's a tremendous amount of athleticism on that roster. And there are guys on that bench that could play other places and start. George Weah is one that comes to mind quickly. Aronson's another. And my friends are having debates over whether these guys should be playing or not. As I say, if it's not broke, we're not fixing it. What I want, what I believe as a coach is, I want an expectation because we're winning that we're going to continue to win. And so I would never, ever take my foot off the gas, especially in this third game, because, again, there's no guarantee the engine's going to start when you go to the knockout round. But I really think, and I think this is true too, I'm going to shift gears real quick, but I think globally soccer has risen, and that accounts for the teams like Cape Verde, I'll say again, that have surprised people with how good they are. And so it's not that the other teams are getting worse. It's that the talent is spreading out. And we have a lot of guys playing in the best leagues in the world, playing a lot of substantial minutes, making impacts, and then the ability to come home and to have a coach of Pochettino's level to put that together, have a plan that he thinks can work. I know it sounds silly, but with the right draw, we could be through the quarters and looking at a semifinal berth where, I always tell people, I'll give you a pass on the first 3 rounds. You want to go to the semifinals right now and take your chance against number 1? Sign me up. I'm ready. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And the sky's the limit. We go to the semis, you're going to see raucousness like you've never seen it before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing, when I looked at the draws, well, I guess what you said in general about the elevation of soccer worldwide, and I think going in when I looked at some of the group setups, that I remember thinking that this might be one of the most wide open fields that I've seen, especially since the last time the World Cup was held here in '94. And I can look at 2 teams that were near and dear to my heart when I was working in Florida: Morocco, Mexico, Ireland, and the Netherlands have really elevated their play. And Mexico in particular just really looks strong. I mean, we're used to them in the States, with CONCACAF and that kind of thing. But just in general, when I looked at some of their pre-World Cup matches, and I thought, this is a team that could really do something. Some of the African nations, and again, I covered Morocco in particular in '94, and they seemed like a team then that was happy to be there, and I think they took it as a learning experience. Well, fast forward, to now, and they seem like a team. It's like, okay, we learned over these years, and now it's time to really, really apply it. And the experience of their players is different. Just the strategy. There's more of a seriousness to it now, and I'm just wondering if there's any team you see as a surprise. You mentioned Cape Verde. That was probably the biggest one so far. But when you look at, say, some of the draws in this, is that pretty much what you expect from a field that seems to be top to bottom pretty balanced?
I'm with you, Gary. I told friends that 12 teams could win it all. And, there's some irony there. For novices, you think about the NCAA basketball tournament, for example. Look, there's, when's the last time an 8 seed won? I mean, is it NC State in '83? I mean, it might be that long ago. And so there's a lot of good teams. A lot of it will come down to the matchups coming into the knockout round, which obviously we won't know for another week or so. But I still think 12 teams can win. And it's equally important that 12 teams could win the cup. There's 12 other teams that are going to get stung. And when I say stung, I mean some lower team's going to knock them, and they're going to be either sweating bullets with 5 minutes to go, holding on for dear life, or they're going to be looking around when the clock goes off thinking, how did this happen? And we're going home. And, the irony, too, about this tournament, quite frankly, is it only happens every 4 years. I mean, and I'll shout out to my guy, Cristiano Ronaldo, who's playing in his 6th World Cup. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge debate amongst guys in the know about should he be playing. And my thing is simple. I only need to see a moment of brilliance from him to warrant the time I put him on the field. Today, I got 2 of those moments. And you best believe I texted about 40 different guys and let them know that. Like, my guy's not done yet. There's more to go. That team is really talented with a lot of experience from the last cup, from guys that are still in their 20s, with a leader at 41 that, as Joe Jacoby once said, would run his grandmother over to win the World Cup. And when asked, I think Hacksaw Reynolds said I'd run his grandmother over too. So it is it's all or nothing. And it's funny too. I love to see the camaraderie of fans because when it comes down to it, everybody's a fan. And this one is pretty easy. And when you see that person in that jersey, I met a gentleman on the treadmill the other day, and he was wearing a Mexico jersey. And we were watching a game that, neither one of us had a rooting interest in. We were just watching the game while we were running on the treadmill. Well, we talked for almost an hour. He likes his team's chances. I do too.
Wow. Yeah. Well, let me ask you about another guy that they think is over the hill. This guy named Lionel Messi. What do you think, man?
Lionel,
I'm sorry. Yeah. Lionel Messi.
I can't field those phone calls.
So, a dear friend of mine was one of the great players I ever coached, recruited, etc. And when Lionel Messi was still in his 20s, I said something to my friend about his size and his fitness. And he said, don't kid yourself. That guy's in the weight room. He is extremely fit. He will be a player for a long time. And my buddy Michelle Millwood has been right as rain about that. And it's, there's some irony here. For me, that's LeBron James's biggest claim to fame. I'm a $1 million body, and I'm going to spend $1 million to take care of it because it's my money maker. And you look around, and we can talk about guys, Gary, I'm sure you too, where we looked at guys and went, that guy's not real serious about what he's doing, not taking care of himself, etc. But the modern athlete, it's a business. Lionel Messi's in great shape. I don't have any doubt he could play 2-3 more years. And that's one of the things one of my friends commented on the other day is here is a guy who's arguably the best player on the planet right now, and he plays in the United States for his club. And to think that would be the truth and a guy that's clearly still at the top of his abilities, we would have never had that thought 20 years ago. This is where you came to ease out of your career, not where you came to dominate and to be the best on the planet.
Yeah, yeah. But Jimmy, 2 questions for you. Biggest upset you've seen, and give me a Final Four going through this knockout round.
So, biggest upset of a team. Somebody's still left. It's tough to see that without, because you don't really know who's going to play who. I mean, I could work a grid out and figure out just on the basis of what it is right now. But there's going to be a team from Africa that's going to come out and it's going to stun somebody. And they're going to be in the last 8, and nobody's going to want to play them.
Okay.
And whether that's a Ghana or a Senegal, hard to say. And I don't want to sound like this guy, but as far as a Final Four goes, I'd be surprised if it didn't look like, as we like to say for basketball, chalk. In the words of the great Jermaine Lassiter, that I think Argentina's for real and really focused. This England team that I'm glancing up at now is really deep. I like the U.S.'s chances, as crazy as that sounds, coming out of my own mouth and to my own ears. But you got to remember, they're going to be playing at home. They've got the crowd. They've got a lot of advantages. The real trick is, do they have enough composure? And they've got a liability in the back line. That's where they're weakest. And that's the similar problem with Norway, for example. But I'll be surprised if you don't see 2 South American and 2 European teams So think of a Brazil, Argentina versus, you know, as much as I'd like to say it, but probably right now looking more like England, and that Spain team is really hot. But a lot of it's going to depend on how the draw shakes out. And that's why you're going to see some exciting stuff next week, because teams are going to be playing simultaneously to finish out their group play. And you're going to see some of the heavy hitters go at some of the teams that are out and press them out because they want that standing rack where they're going to be slotted.
Well, we go from one group of surprises with the World Cup, and now we go over to another surprise group with the NBA. First thing is not a surprise. Giannis ends up traded. We knew he was going to get traded. A little bit surprised it ended up being Miami. Surprised that Julius Randle got traded to the Nets. A little surprised that Trae Young signed back with the Gary, I was going to call them the Bullets again, the Wizards. You guys tell me, man, what do y'all think? What do you think here? Giannis in Miami. What do you think?
I think the Giannis trade reeks of Herschel Walker to Minnesota. That's what it reeks of to me. And don't get me wrong, Herschel was great, and I think Giannis is great. But, man, that's a lot. That's a lot. And what's left to build with him?
And, Jimmy, what you're saying is, because the way the movie ended in Minnesota, they didn't win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl.
That was – I don't know back in the day that – and I can't remember who was actually coaching at Minnesota, but clearly –
Wasn't that Jerry Burns?
I think you might be right. I was picturing Jerry Burns in my head.
Because I think Steckel was gone.
I don't think he wanted him. Because that's, you got to be committed to running the ball and giving Herschel the ball. And you know, and listen, there's a lot worse offensive ideas than giving Giannis the ball and getting out of the way. Don't get me wrong. But the draft picks, the supplementary players, Tyler Hero is arguably one of the best players down in Miami. You sent him out too? I don't see it.
And they're going to lose Norman Powell to free agency. He's an unrestricted free agent. But here's the one thing I'll say, and then, Gary, I want to get your thoughts on this. Never doubt that guy named Pat Riley. He will figure something out. I don't know what he's going to figure out because I'm with you, Jimmy. I think there's quite a bit. I think Bam Adebayo and Giannis are a tandem, a great tandem. But you're missing a straw to steer your drink. You don't have a point guard or a shooting guard. So I don't know. Gary, what do you think, man?
Yeah. What you just said. My question about this was like, I guess giving up draft picks along with that to get him, because you're looking at you look at Giannis's age. I mean, I'm not going to say he's on the downside, but you see things start to fall off. It's not just injuries; it's more like, in his case, more disinterest or losing interest. He's a guy, I feel like he's motivated when he's dialed in. And he became kind of disconnected and started floating out these thought bubbles of leaving, as far back as maybe a season after they won the championship, when he saw that as their ceiling. I think he recognized that as their ceiling. And I guess, what was it? They went out the first round a year after they won the championship. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that's not good. And that tells me that there's somebody has fallen off, that the team, they feel like, okay, we've got our rings now. We can, we don't have to prove anything else. And for that, they haven't really proven much of anything. I really don't like Miami losing Tyler Hero. I might be biased because he played here at Kentucky. Like you said, he might have been the best player on that squad. My question about this trade even though it gives Miami, as like I said, two aircraft carriers, I wonder how well they can complement each other. I don't think that they're necessarily similar players, but um, I just wonder how much they can defer to one another. And I see this more as a thing where Giannis is going to have to learn to defer some to Bam Adebayo, who I still think has a huge upside, for his career, health wise, as well as I mean, again, I think he still has more years ahead of him than behind him at this point. Um, the big game that he had, say whatever about fouls and stuff. Do you know how hard it is to get to 60 points in an NBA game? And then what, he goes out and knocks down, what was it, 83 or something? John, you probably know that better. I've forgotten about it. I mean, again, it might have been a fluke for him, but again, he was an example of on any given night, especially a player of his talent. And I feel like he sent a message that night, and I still feel like the best is ahead for him. But now you get rid of the point guard or shooting guard that complemented him, that complemented their front court, and I don't know. I hope you're right, John, that Pat Riley isn't done yet. Of course, he's never really been done. Spo is still a wonderful coach. In my estimation, a Hall of Fame coach. So it's just I want to see how they get these other pieces in free agency or through the draft in a few hours.
Well,
I'll jump in on this real quick, Gary. I'm with you, and in my head, my real question would be: we're getting the ball to Bam, he's having a night, and we're putting up numbers. I don't know what you tell Giannis at that point. Hey, man, just do me a favor and stay out of the lane, stay out of his way. Because as a coach, I can't picture that turning out well. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
But I think both of y'all make a very good point. But you know what I really believe it goes back to what we talked about earlier. You got to have a point guard who can be on the court and be the leader and distribute and tell somebody move there, move there, somewhere else. Gary, I will say one thing though. You said Adebayo was on a mission tonight. He got 83 points, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would agree. But you know who else was on a mission that night? The Washington Wizards, and showing how not to play defense.
Wait a minute, that's never been a mission, man. I mean, look, when you play matador defense, like they have what for a generation, John. It's like the Washington Wizards are the NBA's homecoming opponent.
Look, this is how
and it hurts to say that.
This is how I know that game was rough. Kim said to me, John, that's absolutely ridiculous. They didn't play any defense. How'd he get? He doesn't even deserve. He doesn't deserve to be past Kobe Bryant because he didn't get 83 points. They gave it to him. That's when I knew it was bad when Kim was making comments. So
I say this real quick because I'd love to hear this. I was shocked when I saw the scroll say that Trae Young signed for 212 and was coming back. I didn't see it. And that reeks to me, oh my God, of Mark Price.
I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong.
Yeah.
I hope you're wrong.
But that's what it smells like.
What I'm hoping happens with the Wizards. You sign Trae Young. I'm hoping you can talk Anthony Davis in the stain, and then maybe keep him in cellophane wrap so he doesn't get hurt. And then I want to move Sarr to a 3 because I think he's a long 3. I think he will struggle as a 4 because I don't think he's strong enough yet. And I'll say to you what I've said to Gary, I've said to Dante, and everybody thinks I'm crazy. If I'm the Wizards, my first pick is Cameron Boozer. I'm taking him because
John Webster, have you lost your mind?
this is what I'll say, Jim. I don't want to draft on potential. I want to draft on what can work now. Debanza, yes, he has all the potential in the world. I think he'll be great. But I think I'm sorry, Gary, the Wizards need to win about 45 games this year. I think if you put Cameron Boozer at a 4, he is a solid 4. That's what the Wizards are missing to me. Another strong, meaty guy down low, beefy guy down low. You got all the guards in the world. You got Trey Johnson, you got Trey Young, you got the George kid, you got Anthony Davis. You can keep him healthy. You go and you get yourself a serviceable center to back him up. You move Sarr to 3, and then you put him at 4.
As a lifelong Marylander, as a man who worked by your side across the street from the university, I can't in good conscience advocate that a Duke player would be our pick, much less the number 1 pick in the draft. And let me caution this. They're all mediocre at best when they get to the NBA. And as much as I think Flagg's a player, let me see him do it for 2 more years, and then I'll say that he's not mediocre too. Now, you know what? I'm step out. I think Peterson's trouble. I'm leaving him where he is. I think DeSantis got the biggest upside, and he's the hardest worker, and I'm taking that.
Well, I'll say I don't think you would go wrong with the Bansa. I just think, even though I know it's a Duke guy from Cameron Indoor Stadium, Jimmy, I just think he's ready to come in here and do some things now.
Listen, John, I'm with you.
I'm not saying we're drafting Christian Leitner. I said Cameron Boozer.
Wait a minute, didn't that happen? Didn't that happen once?
Yeah, let me get you one more good time, John, because I'll tell you 2 quick things, and they're priceless. I was there when the kid threw the bomb in. I was behind the basket when the Boozer boys didn't know what they were doing, and that's really on their coach, because he didn't know what he was doing. Now, remember where that took place. So I'm just saying it would be a nice redemption story. I think the kid can play. I just can't, in a good conscience, write that name down, Duke University, and hand it to the guy that's going to run to tell him who the next pick is. I can't do it. I can't.
Maryland's out here. I feel what you're saying. And at first glance, I'd be inclined to agree with you. I can't even think of a metaphor like that, but it really demonstrates the state that the Washington Wizards are in, where you feel like you're pressured to take a guy that part of your fan base are Marylanders, Maryland graduates, have ties to Maryland either through their kids or one way, shape, or form, and taking a Duke player. I think they as soon take a Virginia player first. But again, the state that they're in, and he's a proven commodity, albeit for 1 year, but he's enough of a proven commodity that, what is that saying? You go with the devil you know as opposed to the devil you don't, and see what happens. I'm in a wait and see attitude or mindset like you are about Boozer. The one thing I will say, having seen him several times in ACC play, a couple times, against Louisville here, is that he is a guy with, I think, a very high ceiling in terms of his skill set and the way he can take charge of a game. I think the Wizards need that. Re-signing Trey Young, I hope you're wrong about what is it?
The Mark Price.
Mark Price. Yeah.
I hope
No,
I'm wrong.
that analogy.
That's the first thing I thought of, Gary.
Yeah, no, it's one. I mean, yeah, you brought it up. That's one I've been trying to forget as well. But if you're a team like the Wizards and you can convince a guy of his caliber to stay after a midseason trade, if you can convince a guy like AD to stay after a midseason trade, then that tells me something that's like maybe they want to be part of something special. I don't know about 45 wins, John, because I think if you're the Wizards, 30 has to be a good starting point. You have to really raise that ceiling as you know that they're capable. Maybe they are, but I'll say it like this: if they can win maybe 38 games and give it a run, then I would feel a lot better about things. But again, all the moves that you suggested, they make perfect sense, and you just have to hope that AD stays healthy enough for a season, because I worry about him getting hurt going to check in at the scorer's table.
Oh my goodness. Oh my god. You and Jimmy are cruel. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I don't want to be excessively negative at my dear friend John, but let me offer this so that you can look this up in 2 years' time. Boozer will be if he's the number one pick, he'll be Shane Battier. Nothing wrong with that. 10, 12 years, solid middle of the roster kind of guy, no problems outside of the arena, etc. But is that really the guy you want with the number one pick?
That's why you trade the number one, you get some more draft picks, and you give the number one to Utah. Who's the number three? Who's the number three team?
Don't give me the line, but I'll tell you this now, John. I'll sign off on that. Trading the number one pick away and the responsibility of not blowing it with that pick. Oh, I'd sign off on that. Bring me stockpiling draft picks and players. I'm good.
Yeah, now you got to give me a truckload of draft picks. I go down to 2. At 2, I take Boozer.
It's I think the top 4 guys are the top 4 guys. The kid at Carolina, Peterson out in Kansas. There's something that doesn't add up with that kid. God love him.
Well, I think he's a tremendous talent. I hope whatever's going on, it can be worked out. He's a tremendous talent. The reason I didn't say anything for him with the Wizards have a whole bunch of guards. They don't need any more guards. If you needed a guard, you know who I would take? Acuff, the kid from Arkansas. He played for Calipari. Calipari's kids are pro ready. That if I needed a guard, that's who I take. They don't need a guard. Now, I would be worried if the general manager still was somebody with the bullets. I won't mention a name, because they would end up with some more guards. But I think with this guy, Will Dawkins, and what they're doing over there with the Wizards, I think they're going to make a very good selection. And I think I just think they gotta get to the playoffs this year, and they gotta have more than 42 wins. It's got to be 45.
Well, I'm with Gary. I think 45 is a lot. I think that you're going to have a mix now, right, of guys on the older edge, some unseasoned young vets, and a bunch of new guys. From a coaching standpoint, that's a hard mix, especially when it comes to consistency, night in, night out, the long road trip games. And those are the games that if you're going to get past 500, you can't give any of those games away.
So quickly, Julius Randle.
Can I say one thing, John?
Go ahead.
Just jump in. Okay. I look looking at another sport. I look at the Nationals as another example. Okay, they traded away a lot of talent, got a lot of prospects in return, and look at where they are. They are competitive. I'm not going to be realistic enough to say that they're a wild card team, but they are competitive, and I think that's what you have to look for with the Wizards across town. You want to see a team that can be competitive as opposed to one that looks like, they're holding up, a red cape and everything, and Bam Adebayo is coming at them, and they go Ole, you know, on a really bad night for them and a good night for Bam. You want to see improvement, and I think that will start putting butts in the seats, maybe a few more dollars in their pocket, and that's why I say that as optimistic as you are about 40 to 42 to 45 wins being kind of the threshold, we're talking about a team that has struggled to get really to 25 wins most seasons here. And I just want us to be realistic about what we think we can get as fans from this makeup.
Well, let me hit you with unrealistic. I had a discussion this morning with another friend of mine that John's familiar with, Byron Thompson. He's a baseball guy, and we both agree that the Nats are a mid-season top 3 pitcher and a bullpen guy from making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And that realistically puts them a year or two ahead of schedule from when they fire sailed out with the Soto trades. And so I don't think the Wizards are going to make that realistic big a jump. Like, I'm with more to you, Gary. I think they get in the mid-30s where they're scaring the last place play-in team. That's the accomplishment you want. But I still say a lot of discipline necessary to get those wins. You can't give any wins away to get to that number.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah. I mean, and again, if they can get close to 30 wins and look halfway decent, I'd be willing to have some faith in the long term, for their growth. If they trade down to second and get a boatload of draft picks and try to build that same way, you don't have to pay the number one pick money with Boozer. I would feel like that's a very smart move. But right now, I think they're inclined to take the safe mood in drafting it. In mode rather, and draft at number one to get him. But if they can play it smart, trade down, and have have a few dollars in their pocket for down the road, I would feel much better with them about this year and going forward, because they can slowly build the way that they used to build teams, through the draft and maybe through some trades.
Hey, Gary, take us home, man.
All right, let's see. What do we got? What we got coming up here? All right. We have Wimbledon coming up. Just around the corner. Of course, we have the WNBA that's ongoing now. With from what I can see, the last week I've been paying a lot of attention to the Atlanta Dream. They've beaten the Indiana Fever twice and have really gutted out some wins, including the Washington Mystics, who gutted out a good win against the New York Liberty over the weekend. So there's a lot to watch there. WNBA, I really like where they're going with the talent that they have, and how games are, believe it or not, on every night somewhere. It's like a friend of mine used to say about Soul Train: no matter where you are, no matter what time it is, Soul Train is on somewhere. That's a good thing to know, where you can watch this league. I'm trying to think of what else is going on. We're only a few weeks away from the beginning of training camp, and I don't know why I'm looking forward to training camp this year more than any other. With Washington, I think it's just you can't sink any farther than last year, where you could, but there's something to look forward to. Is that okay? The sun comes up in the morning, and we'll go from there. But John, there's so much to watch, with baseball being the preeminent sport. Your Baltimore Orioles, it's been a little uneven, but John, I still feel like there's some hope there. And it's worth watching to see how these teams, play it out over, late June and, throughout July before the trade deadline, and see what they can do to either build toward the future or add that extra piece, as Jim was saying. And Jim, we really thank you for coming on and talking about all things soccer or football, and talking about a beautiful game at a beautiful time of year. So come on back and see us. John?
Hey, thank you all for joining us. Another great week in sports. Jimmy Bell, I can't thank you enough. We can't thank you enough. Thank you for coming on today. Man, you're just simply one of the best. We greatly appreciate you. And make sure you come back a lot sooner next time, Jimmy. Love to see you. Love to see you. Ginger ale's on you when you come in next time. But we go from there. Hey, this week, watch the World Cup. Watch some golf, watch some tennis, watch some Major League Baseball. Pray for my Orioles, please. But above all else, just watch some sports. Take care. See you again real soon.